What's up, everybody? So yeah, last night I tried to start up the stream at what would be my normal stream time at night, and about 15 minutes in, my headset died. I don't have any backup headset, so um, this is gonna be the first video, and I'll kind of go through my whole spiel again and talk about what you see on the screen here. But um, essentially, welcome to the channel. If this is the first video that you're watching, this is my first video ever, or live stream ever. I am doing this in the morning, hence the coffee. So if I take a coffee break, it's because this is in the morning, and usually I would be streaming at night. But like I said, my headset died last night, so I am going to stream this morning. I just wanted to get my first stream out of the way, get something on the channel, work out any audio, visual issues. I did a little testing before this, but work that all out, and then go from there, and hopefully we'll get some people in live chatting and get some more views on things. But that's the general gist of it. So what we're doing here, this video, what I wanted to do is I created sort of a master sheet, right? So this has all of the depth charts of each team as of when I made this, right? Like depth charts change. A lot of these pieces are going to be moving. I'm going to try to update this as often as possible. Um, Probably, when something major happens in the news, or at least once a month, I'll go back and check and update this. But essentially, keeping a team depth chart and a running thing here. We got, question marks where things aren't too sure. We got question marks around people who might be leaving, might be getting traded. We got contract years, so who's in a contract year next year if they stay with the team, right? So a lot of moving pieces here. But the idea is we got a holistic picture of everybody in their skill positions, and then I have quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends, and I'm going to be ranking each of those. So basically saying, who do I think is going to finish the best QB1 in 2025, and who do I think is going to be at the bottom and everywhere in between. Um, and the conversation is really going to be around, and as you can see, I sort of did some in the video last night before my headset died. Um, who's going to finish above or below who, right? So what I've done here, Josh Allen's going to finish above Tua, Drake May, and whoever the New York Jets uh, quarterback is, but Tua is going to finish under Josh Allen, but before Drake May and the New York Jets quarterback. And I have these two on the same line because we're going to fill out the rest, and then I'll kind of see where things slot in. So um, that's the general gist of it. And this is the way too early rankings. So as you can see, I got question marks around who's going to be some of these quarterbacks. Pittsburgh, I got two here. Who knows? So I'm not going to do any guessing. I'm not going to do any forecasting of like, yeah, I think Justin Fields is going to be the Pittsburgh um, quarterback, that sort of thing. I'm sort of going to take it as it is today and uh, make the rankings, and then in a month, 2 months, come back. Um, The other thing you won't see here is rookies. I don't have any rookies in here. I might put in some rookies once we get closer to the draft. Look at a mock draft, and put in some rookies and see how things look. But ultimately, I'm not gonna put any rookies in here until after the draft. Seriously, and then after the draft, we'll have a big redo and inserting the rookies in here. So um, that's sort of the setup. And like I said, I'm gonna jump right into it. I already talked a little bit about these quarterbacks. I'll kind of high level go over it, but Josh Allen finished this year's QB2. Didn't have a great supporting cast and still finished QB2. So he has the rushing upside. The one thing I will say, and I got stats up here, and I was looking at Lamar Jackson when my headset died, but if you look at Josh Allen in the regular stats, right, like he is very comfortably in the low 20s. He has these 30-point games, but like this one's 31, and he had two rushing touchdowns, right? So without that, he's at 19. Um, this 31 had no rushing touchdowns though, so this is nice to see, right? For receiving touchdowns. Um, but look at it, like 14.6, 24, 21, 19, 22, 4. Like Josh Allen has a floor, right? Like he's going to get you this because of these rushes, right? Like, and then if he gets the touchdowns, he's going to explode. And if he doesn't get the touchdowns, he's going to be around his average, right? So like he's not he's I wouldn't consider him a boom quarterback. I don't think he's going to get you those 30-point games consistently. You know, he might get them 3-4 times a year, but like his consistency where he lives is in the upper teens, lower 20s. And to me, that's not a quarterback that you want to be taking early in a draft, or that's not a premier quarterback, regardless of if he finishes QB1 or QB2. Um, and we'll get into tier breaks after I create the entire list. Like we'll create this entire list, then get into tier breaks. But like if we look at last year, Josh Allen was 379. Joe Burrow's right there at 372, 365, 355, right? Like they're all in a tier together. And looking at forward and looking at what teams are doing, right? The 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 Bills might add a piece for Josh Allen, but they also have James Cook, who's a great running back. Ray Davis has looked solid, right? Like Amari Cooper's going to leave, even though he wasn't really a non-factor. Kincaid and Knox are showing themselves to be maybe mediocre tight ends. So I think I think he's going to stay here. I think he even might drop based on those rushing totals. Um, but he's still on the top for now. Tua, let's take a look at Tua. Didn't have a great point per game total. He was hurt, so I'm not going to even look at total points. But looking at these weeks, week 1, 18, week 2, kind of got knocked out 5, 8, 9 when he came back, 14, 17, 8. The other stretch of 20s. Um, and he's not rushing, right? Like Tua's not a rushing person. So like what happened here, right? Like why is he getting these numbers? 3, 4, 2, 2, right? 300, 300, 300, 300. Passed the ball 36, 40, 46, 47. Right? Like so he started chucking and he started putting up points. So the question is he going to be chucking? Is he going to be chucking next year? And I said this in the video that I deleted from last night, but um, I really go by the motto of throw for the sticks, run for the six. What I mean by that is like between the 20s on the field when you need first downs, teams are going to throw the ball. You're going to establish the run to establish the run and get some pressure off your receivers, and get those linebackers stepping up a little bit. But you're going to pass the ball. You're going to pass the ball first, second, third down like all the time. But where the league seems to be shifting is when you get into the red zone, you're pounding that rock, whether it's with a running back, whether it's with a QB, whether it's with a little like tight end flip screen type thing, right? Like gone are the days of the fade to the back pylon, right? Like I don't know if I even saw that once this year, and obviously it probably happened. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but like that used to be the move, right? You get in the 5 yard line, it's like fade to the back post, fade to the back post, fade to the back pylon. Um, I don't see that anymore. And looking at the Dolphins, they don't have a guy who does that. Like maybe Waddle, Jonnu Smith, but he's like more of a middle field guy. Like they're not throwing fades, but they're also not pounding the rock, right? Like Devon Achan's not pounding the rock. Alex Ingold, shout out Badgers, but like he's not pounding the rock. Raheem Mostert is like in a retirement community. Jalen Wright, and I'll get to him in the running back. I think there is an intriguing upside to Jalen Wright to take over that Mostert role from 2 years ago, um, and be that pound the rock guy for this team. Um, Jeff Wilson Jr. is irrelevant. So like, how do they score? Right? Like, what were these scores? Like 4 touchdowns, 317 yards. Like, what actually happened in this game? Um, and so let's take a look here. Devon Achan, 10 rushing attempts, 32 yards, 0 touchdowns. 3 receptions for 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. So he had at least one, if not two, long touchdowns. I can't see the actual scoring plays. I don't think in this view. Um, so he had a couple long touchdowns, right? Jalen Waddle went off for his one game a year that he went off for one touchdown. Jonnu Smith, 9 receptions, one touchdown. So he was that like. So they had a lot of long touchdowns, right? Let's look at this one. What happened? Jonnu Smith went off. Tyreek Hill had a touchdown, right? Like Achane didn't, but he had 4 receptions for 32 yards. I thought that was 100 yards. So like he has stars on his team, and he needs those stars to pop off. And there's always going to be this health risk with Tua. So I think he has upside, but he has such a low floor. He is such a volatile play. That's why he's in the middle there. And then Drake May. Just a quick look at Drake May. Where the heck are you? Here you are. Didn't really start. I'm not counting week 3. Didn't really start till week 6. He came in, 19, 20, 11, 15, 11, 18, 13, 19, 17, 17. Like, if we're being honest with ourselves, right? Like, that is a decent floor for a Drake May style quarterback, right? Like, you're high teens, mid teens most of the time, right? Like, it's going a little while to get going, but like, he's getting you 15, 16 points. Um, and he has nobody, right? He has nobody. Like, these receivers are not good. Hunter Henry is eh. Ramondre Stevens, he can catch the ball for sure. Um, so a lot will depend on the draft, I think, and see who the Patriots actually take. Are they going to get him some line help? Are they going to get him a weapon? Are they going to do both? Um, like what's going to happen? But like I think these are pretty good freaking numbers for a rookie. Like it's not Jaden Daniels, but like that's pretty solid. And like the thing I think is surprising is like look at these rushing attempts. Like 3, 3, 8, 4, 3, 5, 5, 4, 6. Like he's running the ball. And he's like getting some yards, right? This is 9 extra points that he's getting. 4, 3, 2, 2, 2, 5. So like when there's that rushing consistency, that helps your floor, right? Like because some of these passing, and I think these interception numbers go down. He's going to be in his second year, right? I don't know if he's going to ever, be a chucking the ball at the level of Joe Burrow, but like I think he does a little better this upcoming year. It's just there's a little risk with the second year quarterback when he doesn't have any weapons to actually lean on. So I think Drake May might rise a lot in the offseason. I could see Drake May getting into that like late QB1 in a 12-person stage, but I think right now he's a very good late round play in like a best ball as like a QB2. Um, because or a QB3 even, like he's not gonna get you those pop offs, but like he is gonna consistently get you this. He's gonna consistently get you those teens, right? Like he's the guy. They're in a system, right? Like now, granted, he has a new quarterback, a new coach, but I mean, Vrabel knows what he's doing, and Vrabel's gonna want to pound the rock, sure, but like I think Drake May is gonna be fine. Drake May is who people thought Will Levis was gonna be. But I still put Tua ahead of him. Um, just because that pop off potential, just because Tua has the weapons around him, and I think he has a little bit more to give in terms of like he can get you into that 25-point game, maybe even that 30-point game. I don't think Drake May gets there. And then I put the Jets quarterback on the same level as May just because we don't know who it is, right? And there could be a little rushing upside there. There's better weapons around the Jets right now. Um, So I think, once we know who the Jets quarterback is, I think it'll be a little bit clearer as to where they slot in here. But I put him on the side there just to see where everything else is going. The next one's Lamar Jackson, and I'm gonna save everybody some time here, and just put him right here. Like he's so freaking good. Like Lamar Jackson is so good. He scored 50 more fantasy points than any other quarterback. Like yes, he played in week 18. So like even if we take that away, he's 27 points above everybody else. Like his floor is in the 20s. Like his floor is 25, 26. His floor is way higher than Josh Allen's. Way higher. He has the rushing potential, so he has that pop off potential. He has the rushing touchdown 6 point potential. But the dude can't pass, and he can't pass. Like, is he popping off for 300 yards? No, not really. But he's not making mistakes because he just runs with the ball when nobody's open. And he's still getting 4 or 5 touchdown games, consistently 2, 3. Like, their offense is so high powered. Like he's getting those chances, and like when they're in the red zone, he's throwing to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely's, right? Like he's running the ball for rollouts. Like he is that offense, and Derrick Henry's good. Derrick Henry showed he's a freak, right? He's an animal. But this is Lamar's team. This is Lamar's team, and the offense will run always through Lamar, and they are pissed that they are not playing the Super Bowl right now. They are pissed they're not playing the Super Bowl right now. And I think they're going to get a lot of defensive help. Maybe even a little bit of receiver help. Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, I think, are fine. I think Keaton Mitchell, sleeper, because I think he's electric. But um, Derrick Henry and Justice Hill, great 1-2 punch, right? Like Zay Flowers, really good, shifty, scat back type thing. Um, I think they need an actual, receiver to throw to. I think Devontae Walker is another sleeper pick. But Bateman, kind of does the job. Andrews and Likely are. Um, Andrews and Likely are great. So he's the best quarterback in the game right now, and there's no reason to think he's going to do anything different next year. So um, so that's Lamar Jackson goes at one. And I'm just gonna put some. I'm just gonna put some little. Oh, I'm just gonna put a little music on in the background. Um, my headset keeps turning off. So hopefully that music is not too loud on the channel here. We'll get that. We'll test that out. In when I look at the video after I post it. But yeah, my headset was going out a little bit, so I just want to put a little DMCA free beats in the back end to keep it on. Yeah, Lamar Jackson, best quarterback in the game. Um, better upside than better floor than Allen, better upside than Allen, just better than Allen in every single way. Straight up, fantasy wise, maybe a little bit closer of an argument in real football, but I think Lamar Jackson's better anyway. Now Joe Burrow. Now here is the interesting conversation. Joe Burrow, right next to Josh Allen, right next to him. Total points, fantasy points per game, like literally right there, right? Um, And like he doesn't really rush, right? Like 4 for 55 and one, weird. Um, 4 for 25 and one, again, a little weird. Like he doesn't run, like he will, but like irrelevant for fantasy. Like that's just like a cherry plus on top, right? Like he's a pocket passer. He's gonna get you three, 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 4, 5. You know, like he throws the ball. He's got Jamar Chase because he's got T Higgins for now. We'll see what happens with T Higgins. Chase Brown, receiving running back. Zach Moss was out, right? So I think we also need to factor in, when they have that option in the red zone, are they going to use it or not? But Joe Burrow is maybe the best, if not one of the best, throwing quarterbacks in the league right now, right? And their offense right now is designed to chuck the ball. Their offense was not the issue. In the offseason, in the draft, they're going to bolster their defense because their defense was god awful. Their pass defense was awful. So I expect them to bolster their defense. The biggest question is, does T Higgins come back to this team? Because having T Higgins and Jamar Chase was insane for Joe Burrow. And if they lose T Higgins and they have to play Yoshi Voss in here, or maybe they find someone to fill the gap, they're not going to be as good as T Higgins. They're just not. So does that impact what Joe Burrow is doing? And I think you can't say it doesn't. Right, it definitely is, but do his numbers go down that much? Like he's still going to be throwing 40 to 50 times a game in close games. Like he's still going to be chucking the ball. He's still going to be throwing these touchdowns. Like I don't think that impacts him too much, but there is that risk. So the question becomes, when we're talking about this tier of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you know, he's obviously above Tua. Let's just make that clear. But when we're talking about the elite level, where is he going to be better than Josh Allen? Is he going to be better than Lamar Jackson? Like I don't see a world where Joe Burrow has more fantasy points than Lamar Jackson just because he doesn't have that run potential. And Lamar Jackson does both. Like he is just the best, like he's the best fantasy quarterback weapon. But when you get to that level of, do I want Josh Allen or do I want Joe Burrow next year? I think where it comes down to for me is if Joe Burrow keeps T Higgins, I want Joe Burrow ahead of Josh Allen. If he doesn't keep T Higgins, I would take Josh Allen above him. I think that's where it plays out for me. And my reason is like Josh Allen is great, don't get me wrong. He has that rushing potential. I think the Bills have this tendency to run the ball a lot more, and like they don't have another weapon. Like Amari Cooper failed as a weapon. Like Keon Coleman, he's okay, but like they don't have that weapon. Are they going to draft one? I mean, they're going to have to draft late. They're going to have to hit late. So like Josh Allen, I mean, it's close, but if I'm looking at right now, right? Like right now, what am I thinking? And right now, I'm putting Joe Burrow ahead of Josh Allen because he still has T Higgins on his team. And if I'm drafting right now, and those are two QBs on the board, and I'm in a position where I want to take a quarterback, I'm taking Joe Burrow over Josh Allen. Just where I'm at. All right, Cleveland quarterback. We don't know who it is. Is it going to be Jameis Winston? Who's it going to be? Right? We don't know. All we do know is they're going to take one in the draft. It's going to be Cam Ward, maybe. Who knows? But what they're working with is not a lot. David Njoku's decent. I think David Njoku can be, a good player on this team, Jerry Jeudy, is he a one-hit wonder? Is he a one-year wonder? I don't know. Cedric Tillman, he sat out half the year with a concussion. He looked good, but is he really going to be good, right? Or is he just like a little flash in the pan and he's not going to be great when you put a rookie back there and you don't have Jameis Winston who's chucking and praying, literally. So like the supporting cast is not there for a rookie quarterback. Like this is a team that's like many pieces away from being good. And if you're talking about fantasy football, I don't want to touch any part of these Cleveland Browns. I don't want to touch their quarterback. I don't want to touch Jerome Ford. I don't want to touch Jerry Jeudy. I don't want any of them. I'm steering clear of the Cleveland Browns. So when we talk about ranking, like if you're asking me would I rather have Drake May or whoever the Cleveland Browns quarterback is, I'm taking Drake May 10 out of 10 times. Now the question becomes, do I want the New York Jets quarterback or the Cleveland Browns quarterback? The Jets have way more weapons, right? The Jets have Breece Hall, who was a disappointment last year for sure. But that's because Aaron Rodgers was calling plays for himself to chuck the ball 50 times a game. That's not going to happen next year. You're going to have to rely on that run game a lot more. And if you're a rookie, you have Garrett Wilson there. You have potentially Devontae Adams there, right? Like you have people you can rely on. Yeah, Jerry Jeudy, is that a guy? Is that the guy? Right? Like so, to answer this question, I want the Jets quarterback over Cleveland quarterback. Now, again, depending on who they take, I'm not a Shedeur Sanders fan. I don't think he's good. I think Cam Ward is miles ahead. So, who takes who is going to affect these rankings, right? If the Jets take Shedeur and Cleveland has Cam Ward, those might flip. Those might flip. But for now, if you told me you can have one of these guys before the draft on your team, Jets quarterback or Cleveland quarterback, I'm taking the Jets quarterback just because there's more potential weapons there to help out. Now we got Pittsburgh, right? And like, what's even? What's even the latest news on this? They don't read. They don't read. So there's no clear picture who's gonna be on the team. So we're just gonna package both these right next to one another. First of all, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a Justin Fields fan. I thought the Bears should have kept Justin Fields. I thought the Bears should have kept Justin Fields and traded away the first round pick for extra picks. This for last year, trade down, get maybe a second or third and a first this year, and get a freaking running back. Even though we'll get into running backs and how I think Roschon Johnson's really good, but I think Justin Fields is miles ahead of Russell Wilson. Just throwing that out there. Russ Wilson, not good. He thinks he can run. He can't run anymore. He's old. He thinks he can pass. He can't. Like he's dinkin' dunkin', and he has no one to actually dink and dunk to. Because George Pickens is a contest ball catcher. Calvin Austin III, maybe a little bit. Roman Wilson maybe a potential. Pat Freiermuth is just catching 5-yard curls for Russell Wilson all day, right? Yeah, you're throwing the ball 37 times for 205 yards and no touchdowns. That is awful. That is awful. So bad. Now, where's Justin Fields here? Let me Here's Justin Fields right here. Let's look at this. Let's look when he was in here. He played 6 weeks. Look at this. 10 rushes, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns. 11 rushes, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns. This is a mobile quarterback league. This is, unless you have Joe Burrow or prime time Stafford, which that's gone. Right? You need the rushing upside. Like, that is where the league's going. You need that rushing quarterback, and Justin Fields is that. And look at no interception, 1 interception for this one game, but no interceptions. Right? No interceptions. Like, he's taking care of the ball. He looked pretty good back there. Like, Justin Fields is so much better than Russell Wilson. So looking at them as a package together, you know who's going to be the Pittsburgh quarterback? Like, first of all, I think it's Justin Fields. And second of all, I think Justin Fields is better than Russell Wilson. So when you're looking at this picture, right? Like, one of these guys is going to be the starter for Pittsburgh. If it is Justin Fields, then Russell Wilson goes into a backup role somewhere in oblivion, in my opinion. You know, backup role on the 49ers, or maybe back to the Seahawks. And, you know, and no, they got Howell, but like, he's going somewhere where he's irrelevant. If Russell Wilson becomes the Pittsburgh quarterback, I see a world where Justin Fields goes to a team and actually plays. Like, I think he could wiggle his way into a potential starter role. So I think Fields has better potential here. And so I'm going to actually split these guys up. And I'm going to say right now, I would take Justin Fields in a draft right now today over the unknown rookies here. One, because I think Justin Fields is going to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And two, I just think he's better. And I would not take Russell Wilson before either of them. Because I think Russell Wilson's, even if he starts, if it was said right now, Russell Wilson's starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would not change Russell Wilson. I would still take these two guys, and I would honestly move Fields above Wilson, but down here underneath the rookies. I wouldn't want either of them, to be honest. They're both going to be towards the bottom of the list. But this is what I'm doing for now. This is how I would take it. And if Justin Fields gets named a starter, I think he moves above Drake May for me, because of that rushing upside. He's the QB of the future of the NFL. CJ Stroud. Oh boy. CJ Stroud, 18th. 18th in total fantasy points. If we look at fantasy points per game, he's down at 33. 13. Oh, man. Oh, boy. Not good. What happened with CJ Stroud? Because he has the weapons, right? Granted, some of them were hurt, right? Tank Dell was hurt. Their line was awful, right? Joe Mixon was taking a lot of the carry, a lot of end zone stuff. Again, what I said, pass for the sticks, rush for the six, right? So like he's got games in here 0, 0, 0 touchdown, 1 touchdown, 1 touchdown. Like, he's not getting to 3 or 4. He got to 3 once, right? So like, he's not. And that was when he didn't even throw for 200 yards. So he was not good. But if we look at 2003 or 2023, he had these boom games, right? 41, 30. He had a couple games in the 20s, but like, look at the rest of these games. 14, 14, 12, 15, 12, 16. Like, He's a middle of the road quarterback. I think people were too afraid to say that after this year because he had these big games and he showed that promise, but he doesn't have rushing upside. Like, he's not getting plays called for him. Will he scramble? Yes, but like 5 attempts for 7 yards, 6 for 4. You know, like 8 for 59. He probably had one big run in there, but like he doesn't. He's not getting plays called for him. 0 touchdowns rushing, so he's not rushing. They got Joe Mixon. Why would you ever rush C.J. Stroud? And like, yeah, they're probably gonna get him some line help in the draft here, but like, he's middle of the road. Like, looking at this list here, you know, he's not up here at all. Like, so we start at Tua, right? We start at Tua. Like, is he better than Tua? Would you rather have C.J. Stroud or Tua? Tua's better. Tua's better, and he's got the same quality support cast, if not better, because they're throwing the ball to Devon Achane, and they throw the ball in the red zone as opposed to just running with Joe Mixon, right? So I'd rather have Tua than C.J. Stroud. So then you get to Drake May. Would you rather have C.J. Stroud or Drake May? It's close, right? These numbers are close. When we looked at Drake May was living in the teens too, and this is where C.J. Stroud's living. So the question becomes, who do you think is going to be better next year? Do you think Drake May is going to take that step in his year 2? Maybe. Do you think C.J. Stroud with a new offensive coordinator goes back to year 1 top side? Maybe. I think the thing that gives C.J. Stroud the nod here is, one, we've seen it done before in his rookie year. We've seen him get to that 30-point game. We haven't seen that from Drake May. 2, Nico Collins is better than every single wide receiver on the Patriots roster combined. And then you got, you know, Calvin Austin, John Mitchie, you know, Tank Dell might be out the entire year. You know, like, you got a good supporting cast. I think the downside is they rely on Joe Mixon heavily. But the new offensive coordinator could be doing good things, you know, with him. So I think, you know, because we've seen it done before, I think I would be taking C.J. Stroud ahead of Drake May for sure. But I'm still taking Tua over Stroud, and I don't even like Tua. I think Tua's average too, but I think C.J. Stroud's right there with average. All right, who's next? Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence. 27 points per game. 27 total points. Trevor Lawrence. Talk about a disappointment. Well, let's just take a look here. Trevor Lawrence. Rookie year, 2021. Bad. Right? Just bad. This isn't even Drake May level rookie year, right? This is just like single digits, just awful. Then he comes out in 2022. He puts up what we're seeing, I would say, Josh Allen numbers, right? High teens, 20s, a few bust games here, 20s, high teens, mid teens, 20, 20, mid teens, 30-pointer, high 20s, high teens, right? Like, he's showing a lot of that promise. You know, minimal mistakes. 4 touchdowns, you know, a rushing touchdown here and there. We look at 2023. He comes down a little bit. He's living in those teens, but he's showing he can pop off for that 30 to 25, like, right? Like, okay, still good. And now let's look at last year. He starts off in those teens. He gets into the 20s a little bit, but he's still in the teens, and then he gets hurt. So, you know, who I think Trevor Lawrence is, honestly, is I think he is the quintessential mid quarterback. Like if Drake May sort of like peaks a little bit higher and then evens out, that's who Trevor Lawrence is. If CJ Stroud shows the potential that he showed in his rookie year, that's who Trevor Lawrence is. Like Trevor Lawrence isn't exciting. He's not an exciting QB, right? Like, and he's throwing a lot more interceptions last year, which is, what's going on there. But like, he's still throwing the ball 30 times a game. He's dinking dunking, but I think that gets a lot better with Brian Thomas Jr. I think Brian Thomas Jr. showed he's the man last year. And so he's going to be a true wide receiver one for Trevor Lawrence. Right? Like, they're going to get Kirk back. He's a little old. Ingram's going to get back. Brenton Strange is there too, who showed a little promise. So he has players, especially Brian Thomas Jr., that he can rely on, and he can chuck to, and he can throw to. And their run game, Tank Bigsby, love me some Tank Bigsby, but like, he's not elite. Travis Etienne Jr. is that, like, play 10 downs or get 10 opportunities a game, and like he's a pass catcher a little bit, right? So like, he has all the pieces to be good. And he gets Liam Cohen, who just made Baker Mayfield look like an all-star. I like Trevor Lawrence this next year. Like, do I think he's going to go crazy? No, absolutely not. But when we're looking at this page, like, who do I trust next year to get the opportunity to take the next step? I think Trevor Lawrence is above these guys. I'm definitely taking him above Drake May, because I think he's just a better Drake May right now. I trust him more than CJ Stroud. Like, these numbers are the same, if not better, than CJ Stroud last year before he got hurt. He doesn't have the same injury risk as Tua. He had a little rushing potential, like they're running the ball with him a little bit. He doesn't have the same supporting cast. He has very similar supporting cast to Tua, if I'm being honest. Like, Travis Etienne Jr. is like Devon Achane light. Brian Thomas Jr. is arguably on the same level as Tyreek Hill right now. I'll go out and say it. Fantasy-wise. Like this is a very similar structure to the Dolphins. And I just trust Trevor Lawrence to be able to get me fantasy points more than Tua. So this might change. This is the very early rankings. But I'm big Trevor Lawrence guy. Also, why did are these the same color? I can't believe I put these as the same color. Oh man. Oh gosh, okay. Huh. Well, that's funny. These should be a little different color, but oh well. But end of the day, I'm taking Trevor Lawrence over these guys. Now let's go with the fantasy enigma. The fantasy enigma himself, Anthony Richardson, 25 in total fantasy points, 25 in points per game. What is Anthony Richardson doing? Chucking the ball. He got hurt again. He got tired. Sat out a little bit. People thought And in game one, 26 points, 2 touchdowns, had the rushing upside. You know, he's running the ball. Don't get me wrong. He's going to run the ball. He is that level of quarterback that you need in the NFL today. But he cannot pass. He looks like he's got two left hands and he's right-handed for sure out there. Like, he is chucking. He is Jameis Winston. If Jameis Winston was Anthony Richardson. Like he is chucking the ball, and sometimes it looks great, and sometimes it looks bad. But he can run. He's got the upside. He's got this 28, 21, 26, but he's also got this 5, this 8. I do not think Anthony Richardson is good. And if I'm a betting man, I don't think Anthony Richardson is the Indianapolis Colts quarterback after next year. Now the question becomes, does he have value? Like, where are you putting this risk? Because he could be great. Don't get me wrong. He could, that rushing upside. But like, even when he's running the ball, like, let's say he goes 14 rushes for 80 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's still not going to pass the ball. Like, he's still not passing the ball. Like, this is garbage numbers passing the ball. So he's a running back. He's a running back playing quarterback. And yeah, you need the rushing upside, but like, quarterback's still quarterback. He still needs to throw the ball, and he cannot throw the ball. So when you're looking at fantasy, right, like, where are you taking that risk? In a best ball format, you might want to take that risk a little higher. But I just don't see, like, I'm not, like, he could be a complete dud on your team. And so, like, when you're talking like fantasy football, like, you're drafting a quarterback that you want to start every week. Like, I'm not taking Anthony Richardson. Like, am I gonna take him maybe as a QB2 to see where it goes and maybe drop him after the first 3 weeks? Sure, of course. But right now his ADP is like super high, and I'm not taking him out of that ADP. So, like, if you're looking at that, like, these are people, like, obviously you got this elite tier, but like Trevor Lawrence, I'd be fine taking him as a QB1 with a decent QB2 option. Tua, I'd be fine taking him as a QB1 again with a decent QB2 option. CJ Sprout, same thing. Drake May, same thing. Once you get into just fields, I'm not really comfortable taking him QB1. There's a lot of risk there. We don't know what's happening. Same with these rookies right now. Like, I'm not taking them as QB1s. So the question becomes, Anthony Richardson or Drake May, which one would you rather have on your team as QB1? It, and maybe this is just me as a fantasy player, right? But like, I'm taking Drake May over Anthony Richardson because I know Drake May is going to be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. I can't say that for Anthony Richardson. I have no idea. And he's bad. And honestly, I would rather have Justin Fields over Anthony Richardson if I knew Justin Fields was starting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I don't right now. So, that being said, I'm putting Anthony Richardson right here. Now, again, could this change? Yes, this absolutely could change. He could look amazing in the offseason. You know, Drake May could look like crap. Maybe they don't get a weapon for Drake May, but they get Anthony Richardson some help, right? But like, I'm not. I'd rather have all these guys. I would rather have all those guys above Anthony Richardson. And you know, maybe Anthony Richardson goes off and starts scoring Lamar Jackson numbers next year, and I'm totally wrong. Then call me wrong. But I'm not. I'm not. I think that's where he stays. All right. Um, this video is getting pretty long, and I thought this would go faster, so we might have to break up quarterbacks in a 1 and 2. But I'll do a couple more. I'll do down to Patrick Mahomes here. So next up is Will Levis. I think question one is Will Levis going to be the quarterback for the Tennessee Titans next year? 45th on the points per game. Just not good. Just not good. I mean, like no rushing upside at all. Uh, he threw the ball, but like not well. Threw interceptions, like interception a game easily. Like didn't eclipse the 20-point mark once. Had negative games. Like I would rather have Russell. Like he's a worse Russell Wilson. Like he's not good. And I think Tennessee drafts a quarterback at 1. Like I think they're talking about this Travis Hunter talk, but like I don't know. I don't know if that's it. Like Will Levis is not good. Like these receivers are not the greatest either. Like Calvin Ridley is the best, and that's saying something. So I mean, like, I'm sorry, but like Will Levis should not be on your team. You should be trying to take anybody and everybody over Will Levis. He is bottom barrel. He is bottom barrel. Now let's talk about Bo Nix. Let's talk about number 10, 18.7 points per game. Number 7, 317 total fantasy points, Bo Nix. Because when you look into it, he started slow, right? 11, 8, 6. But then he got going. 23, 20, 14, 29, 17. Like these are Josh Allen numbers. These are Josh Allen numbers. And he has some rush side here. 9 for 47, 6 for 6 at 10. He's not running in the red zone, right? He's not getting many touchdowns here. He honestly had more early on than later. But he's passing. He's throwing. And he's throwing well. He's throwing well. 73, 75, 84, 72, 77 completion percentages. That's good. That's pretty good. And he's working with Cortland Sutton, Vele, Mims, Troy Franklin, right? When we take a look at the depth chart, right? Sutton's in a contract year, but all these other guys are sticking around potentially. They don't really have a run game. They need some run game help, right? But like, they're not going to probably get that right away in the draft. So I think Bo Nix is going to continue to throw. And he showed really good stuff in year 1. Really good stuff. So looking at what he did last year, the promise, the Sean Payton, like the little bit of rushing upside, these 6, 7, 2, 3 points, add a little bit. It's like 3.5 or 2.5 points here. It takes this from a 21 point from a 17.5 or an 18.5, right? Like those things matter. So when you're looking at, this list, like I said, he's putting up Josh Allen numbers. Now the question becomes, do I want Bo Nix above Josh Allen? And I think the answer is no, right? I'm not going to go that hot takey, right? Like Josh Allen's proven multiple years, like has more of a rush side than Bo Nix. Arguably worse supporting cast, but he's Josh Allen, and I think he's just better than Bo Nix right now. Now, is there a world where Bo Nix scores more points than Josh Allen next year in fantasy football? Yes, 100%. But if I have Josh Allen and Bo Nix on the board next to one another, I'm not taking Bo Nix over Josh Allen. But I am taking Bo Nix over every single other one of these guys. So I think Bo Nix comfortably slots in there. I think the bigger question is going to be, is he in this tier or is he not? And looking at what he did last year with the points per game, right? Like, or total fantasy points, right? Like, I don't know if he's there yet. I don't know if he's there yet. But he's definitely ahead of everybody down here. All right, and the final one we're going to do in this video, because it is getting too long, is Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes. 17.5 points per game, 13th. Total fantasy points, 12th. Last year, this felt bad because you were still drafting him as a top 5 quarterback, and he just didn't play like one. Now, if you look at this, right, like there's consistency there. He's not busting, right? Like he's not going out there and giving you single digits, right? Very limited rushing potential. He breaks off a couple, but I don't think they're designing runs for Patrick Mahomes. And he kind of figured it out later in the year, 24, 28, 23, 26. But like his floor is high, but his ceiling's limited. And I do think getting Rashee Rice back, getting Xavier Worthy back, Travis Kelce, is he retire? I think if they win the Super Bowl, I think he retires. Noah Gray's pretty good, right? Like they brought in Hopkins and Hollywood Brown, who didn't really do much. Getting Pacheco back will help, right? So like, I think Mahomes is a great candidate for a bounce back year next year, but I think we need to be honest about like his ceiling is not that high. Like, if we look at 23, same thing. Teens, had these pop-up games a little bit, but like mostly in the teens. Look at 2022. 2022 is a little different, right? He had these 30s, 20, 30, 20, 30, 20, 20. Like 2022 was very different. 2021, again, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 30, like very different than what we're seeing now. What we're seeing now is much lower ceiling. And I don't think that ceiling comes back. I just don't. I think he's past that. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill he's chucking the ball to, right? He doesn't have prime time Travis Kelce. But he still has weapons. Xavier Worthy, good. Rashee Rice, great. So I think he does bounce back a little bit. I just think, he bounces back up to, here and not like up to here. Like he's not an elite level quarterback. But I am very fine. I am more than fine with taking Patrick Mahomes as my QB1. I'm very comfortable with it. Now, depending on where he's at ADP wise, I'm not as comfortable with it. But if we're looking at all these people, right? Like I like him over all these guys. I like him over Stroud. I like his floor a lot more, and I think they have a very similar ceiling. Tua, I think he's a safer play than Tua, 100%. I think, when we start talking about Trevor Lawrence and Bo Nix, right? Like, Bo Nix looked better than Patrick Mahomes last year. And if we're talking, would you rather have Patrick Mahomes and Bo Nix? If we take the names out, if you show me just the stats, just the supporting cast, and say, do you want A or B? A or B? I'm taking B. I'm taking Bo Nix. If we don't look at the name. And I think Patrick Mahomes and Trevor Lawrence are very similar quarterbacks, as much as people don't want to admit it, in terms of fantasy football. In terms of the fantasy football output you are going to get from both these people in 2025, I think they're very similar. Very similar. I think what puts Mahomes ahead of Lawrence for me is that he has shown that eliteness in the past, even though I don't think he's going to get there. And I think his floor is just that safety net of you're going to get 13 points. You're going to get 14 points. right? He gets Rice back, he gets Worthy back, he gets the Pacheco back. He might have, you know, he might not have Kelsey anymore, but he might have Kelsey. So I think, you have to put Patrick Mahomes ahead of Trevor Lawrence here. But I think it's going to be a lot closer than people might think next year. And I'm taking Bo Nix over Patrick Mahomes. That's just how it's going to be. All right. So I'm going to call it for the video there. First live stream, part one of going through quarterbacks. We went through, 15. That means we got about, 18 left. So video number 2, I'll just kind of jump right into it and get into ranking the rest of these quarterbacks. And then maybe video 3, we'll do some tier breaks and talk about, how these guys split up. Obviously, running backs, I have 70 of them. Receivers, I have 107. Tight ends, 43, a little less. So it might take a little longer to do those. So we'll see. I'll watch this video back. I don't know if this is interesting to hear my thought process, to watch me do this, or just see the final output. I don't know. I don't know if this is engaging content, but I like doing it. I like having it out there. And maybe in future videos, once I have this made, I'll do updates, later on and just talk about the updates and not do it live. Who knows? But if you watch this video, appreciate you coming around, sticking around, watching this, and hopefully a lot more to come. Right, I'm making the rankings right now, but my plan, is to do mock Mondays. So my plan right now is to stream Monday, Wednesday, Fridays at night. Especially as we get into the off season, a little closer to fantasy football season, I'm going to be doing mock drafts on Mondays. Whether that's doing just from one spot, doing multiple spots, doing a full manual mock draft myself. We'll see what that looks like, but I plan on doing a lot of mocks on Mondays. Fridays is going to be best beer and best ball, right? So grab a beer. We'll do some best ball drafts come Friday nights. And then Wednesday is going to be, Wildcard Wednesday. It's going to be whatever I'm feeling, whether that's rankings, whether that's talking news, whether that's more best balls, whether that's more mock drafts, NFL draft stuff, like it's kind of whatever I'm feeling. So that's going to be kind of the structure, mock drafts on Mondays, miscellaneous wildcards on Wednesdays, best balls on Fridays. So if that sounds great, then smash the likes, smash the subscribe, and tune in when you can. But appreciate you all being here. Thank you very much. See you later.